Hey folks, welcome back to DIY guitar making at Eric Schaefer Guitars. Before we get started, if you like what I do and you get a little something out of the lessons that I teach, check out ericschaeferguitars.com. There you can find my structured online courses. You can also check out the schedule of dates for the hands-on workshops that I have coming up in the spring of 2025. And also I think there's one class in the summer and one in the fall. Oh, and there's one in the winter as well in January. So actually, got a pretty good spread this year of classes, which is unusual. I usually just do the spring and the fall. Neither here nor there. Check it out. Let's get into what I have here. I've been working on Doug's guitar, and so as you can see, we are getting really close. I did a lot of fret work yesterday, so you can see those beautiful Evo Gold frets, and I put the bevels on and smoothed them out, and they're just perfectly level right now, and I have not even touched them with a leveling beam. So, but that's not what we're gonna talk about today. Over here, I'm working on the bridge, and so I thought I'd take you guys along to show you and talk about some of the custom shaping and the hand contouring that I do with these bridges, and maybe you guys could pick up a thing or two about hand shaping your bridges and designing a new bridge, so that perhaps if you're just doing these Martin-esque type bridges, which nothing wrong with that, nothing wrong with a traditional bridge, a lot of people do that, but if you were ever interested in doing something of your own, I think you'll get a little something out of this video as we talk about some of the things that I do here, both to design this and to execute the design. All right, so first let's take a look at this MDF prototype here, which I still use in order to extrapolate all the various angles that I have on here and get them onto my actual piece of ebony for the bridge. Or I'm sorry, in this case, no, that is ebony. Never mind, that is ebony. Okay, so one of your biggest helps here for designing and for then pulling the design onto your bridge and shaping that is going to be to use either a grommet or a marking gauge, or maybe a couple of different marking gauges, because some things do better at getting into the tight curves. This, for example, will only work on outside curves. But some sort of scoring tool so that you can score consistent lines for your various bevels and contours that you're going to create. And so if you look at this bridge, you can see there's a scored line all along the bottom, and that goes all the way around. You can see it very clearly in the front. And then you can't see it as well on the top, but there were originally some scored lines on the top here. And basically, I'll score a line in both dimensions, one on the side and one on the top, and then use a file or the disc sander in some cases to shape between those two lines, so that that gives me clear parameters for a three-dimensional carving, right? I'm not going to go outside my lines then. Here, you can actually see it a little bit better on this ebony piece because I just scored those lines. So you can see that line on top, and so I'm shaping right now by hand with this file. And we'll talk about this file in a minute. I just bought this and I really like this thing. We're hand shaping this, and as long as I stay between those lines, it's going to come out looking really smooth. Even if you're kind of new to hand shaping, it might look a little worse, but in the end, this is going to be really smooth, and it's almost going to look like a machine did it. And that's very easy to do, again, if you have scoring tools and you set your parameters with those scoring tools before you start carving. First thing I'll do is just cut out the shape without all the contours onto it, and drill the holes as well. By the way, this arch shape for the holes is the idea behind this. It's not original to me. A lot of other builders do this, is to have the holes not all be along straight in a line, which creates a plane of weakness, especially if those holes coincide with a grain line, and you see it all the time in older guitars. You pull out the bridge plate, which is inside the sound box, and there'll be a nice split right along every single hole. And eventually, of course, if you just let that go, your strings will start to pull through the soft spruce once it gets through the bridge plate. So this is a preventative if you do your holes like this, okay? All right, so the first thing I'll do is I'll mark these angles for the taper of the wings, okay? So this is not a scooped taper, nothing wrong with doing the scoop taper, you can do that. This is a little different. This is just a straight taper down on the wings, so it's just a bevel. And I mark these 70-degree lines just because that's what looks good. That's the design I like. It kind of works with the sweep of that arc of the holes, okay? It looks right with it. And then I just hand carve. You know, there's obviously ways to, put this up against a disc sander or something like that, but because of that 70-degree angle, it actually makes it a bit more complicated. It's a bit more complex, the geometry of it. And so I find it's easiest to actually just put this in a vise and hand carve staying between my 70-degree line and the lines I have marked out on the side of this. I can do a very accurate job with just a file and then ultimately cleaning it up on a sanding board. In case you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I have these giant boards which are great for just placing on the table, and then you can take the bridge and just fine-tune the taper of the wings right there on the sanding board, and you can get a perfect job done like that. And then after that, I will take my prototype template again, take this bevel gauge, and you can rest that right against the existing bevel on the prototype. Lock this in place, take this over to your disc sander, and set your disc sander up to the bevel gauge, which then allows you to take your bridge and simply sand those bevels perfectly at the exact angle right into the front edge here. And I also like to do these the very end of the wings. And there's a scored line all along the bottom, which I showed you before, and that is what I'm watching when I'm running this against the disc sander so that I don't go beyond that scored line. Then I will, finally, what I'm working on right now actually, is I'll mark out with a grommet, or if you have just a marking gauge that can fit into these contours, I will mark out both of my lines for contouring this back bevel. Now this isn't a bevel, it's not an angle like we did on the front. This is a roundover, and so in that case, I'm going to use the file. And in this case, I'm using this file, which I just bought. I'm not trying to sell you this file. I have no relationship with these guys. I actually never heard of them. But I bought this on a whim, and I gotta say, I have been really liking this. Show you what this looks like. Just the cut, I've never seen this. Actually, I have seen this, but in power tool equipment, but not on hand files like this. And it just sheds material really well. And it's brand new, so I don't know how this is going to last, but I feel like it's not going to clog, and I feel like it's going to stay sharp as well. It's just the right size for getting this outside curve right here, but then also as I come into the inside curve, I can just turn this like that, and I can manage that as well. See that? I'm just turning it, sweeping it onto this edge right here. So the shape of your files when you buy them really matter. And when you first get into woodworking, you tend to buy a lot of random files, not really thinking about the shape, and then you'll find with the type of work that you do, that there's just a couple contours which are, you know, reflective of the actual contours on your workpiece that you're creating. There's a couple shapes and contours to your files that you actually need and use, and a whole bunch that you don't. So yeah, this is what I'm doing right now. It might seem like doing this by hand is not a very repeatable job, meaning that every bridge is going to look different. But actually, like I mentioned before, if you mark out those two lines, one on the side, one on the top, every bridge essentially comes out the same when you're done, with maybe you know, a little bit of variability if you really look at them closely. But I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with how well you can do simply carving by hand with a file. As I get closer, I will switch to just a simple half-round file. Not a rasp, but a file. Rasp is way more aggressive, of course. And this has just the right contour for the inside of these wings, and also it's much finer, so I can use the flat side of this on the outside contour and then switch to the round side to get in here. Okay? And essentially what I'm doing here is I'm working different facets, okay? Each facet you can think of as like a line running along the same plane, right? So there's a facet up here, there's a facet down here on the side, another facet further down, and everything in between, many micro facets between all those facets. And so rather than working randomly, kind of like this, on any given pass, I'm going to be staying more or less on one facet, and then on the next pass, I'll work a different facet, and ultimately blending all of those facets together. Okay. I think that's it. I think that's hopefully instructive for you guys. I'm gonna keep going on this. This is not done, but I just wanted to stop to make you guys a quick video, share that with you. If you got something out of it, please, you know, give this video a thumbs up, a like, and yeah, follow me for more videos and check out ericschaferguitars.com. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. If you learned something here, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can be notified when I release a new DIY guitar making video. And if you want to really learn more, take one of my structured online courses at ericschaferguitars.com or register for a hands-on guitar building workshop here with me in Burnville, Pennsylvania.